What's up? What's happening, everybody? It is game day. You're probably listening to this on Saturday, the big, championship game slate. We are formulating a new thing in progress here. Okay, we are officially. You would see a banner at the bottom of this pod's video that says "work in progress," but we are going to be doing, as the fellas here mentioned the other day, a Buckeye film breakdown. We are very excited about it. It's a pair to the Browns film breakdown that we have done on my side. I am obviously Jake Burns, if you've never heard of me. And we have done Browns film and analysis and all of that for an extensive amount of time. And then I got the opportunity to expand and do some Ohio State stuff. And I thought of no better group than these fellas right here. As you know them very well, I don't need to introduce them, but we will anyway. We will introduce them anyway. Slate and Jeremy, they have been here. They're doing their thing. And I thought it was a fantastic mesh point to bring over for analysis, conversation, recruiting, film, all the fun stuff about Ohio State football you love. We're going to have a fantastic website. This should be live and operational early next week, just in time to break down this game that we are about to see tonight and many other games and many other pieces of news and thoughts and analysis into the future. If Ohio State gets a new OC, we will break down film of where that OC has been. If Ohio State goes in any other pathway in the portal, we will break down film of those guys in the portal. We are going to do whatever we can to keep Ohio State content as elevated as possible. Just like on the Brown side, we like to try to elevate your fandom, give you the deep dive stuff, the details that are not hot takes or rational analysis. And I think these guys have been doing that well. And I'm just here to steal their success, is how I say it. So I'm happy to be here with you guys. And Jeremy, I'm going to throw it to you as the host of the show as normal. I will be on some. We'll see how it works out. I would love to join these guys a couple times a week and talk ball. We did some fun stuff on your show last year around the playoff, and we wanted to continue to do that. I think we'll get into more of the film in the coming week or two when Ohio State gets, let's not put the cart in front of the horse. Let's see what happens tonight. Yeah. And then we'll go from there. But we want to get more of that incorporated and do it again. And we're trying to piece together some stuff on the fly here, to make it all work for you guys and give you some fun content. And I think we'll do that. I think it's going to be fun. And we're in for the long haul on this thing because three guys who like talking ball, and that's what we'll do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the amazing intro, Jake. We are glad to be here. Like Jake said, there's going to be some flying by the seat of our pants kind of stuff as we work through things. But hey, it's what we do. We're going to keep the same format for tonight that we normally do when we break down a game. We're going to hit the highs, the lows, hit on Indiana's studs, kind of what they bring to the table, how the Buckeyes might be able to attack that. I'm going to let these guys really dive into that and make some predictions at the end. And, like Jake said, we're excited to be here. We're going to do, what we can to keep it to the forefront and, give you guys some rational takes with film breakdown to back it up. That was a tongue twister. Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Lucas Oil Stadium, number 1, number 2, Ohio State, Indiana. Buckeyes favored by 4.5. Big Ten title on the line, number 1 seed in the college football playoff, and probably a Heisman Trophy. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
Yeah, man. I was talking to a few people at work today. I got a buddy of mine who's going to Indy. He's like, dude, I didn't realize how long it's been since I've actually been to Indy for the Big Ten Championship. And it hit me like, dude, it has been a long time, man. So this is going to be fun, man. And we've got our personal opinions on whether, the conference championship should be a thing or not. But the fact that the Buckeyes are back in the Big Ten Championship, it's going to be a fun matchup with the Heisman Trophy on the line, likely. So I'm excited for this, man. It's going to definitely be fun to see the Buckeyes back out there on that field.
100%.
I would also say the SEC game is going to feel a little redundant. Two teams that have already played, two teams that they want to win it, but it's like they're going to be fine. Alabama might not make the playoff if they lose, but this one feels different, right? Indiana's never done it. They're hungry.
Yeah.
They want to prove still that they belong with big brothers out there. And Ohio State, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here. It would feel a little, I don't want to say it this way because it would be sort of similar to last year where, you win the national championship, but you didn't beat Michigan. And there's just kind of always a little thing hovering there. If you beat Michigan and you don't win the Big Ten championship, it'll be a little annoying, right? Like you got to get the whole thing going here. Yep. Now, ironically, Michigan pulls off many of those Big Ten games. They didn't play anybody like this. They got a lot of Iowa. in those Big Ten championship games. I don't remember everyone that Michigan played in the last 4 years because I kind of tuned it out. I don't know how you guys felt. I kind of
Definitely
tuned it out. But
there
they
were a lot
didn't
of
have
bad games.
Yeah, I don't remember them having a very serious obviously last year was not Michigan involved. It was Oregon and Penn State, but I don't remember Michigan facing anybody seriously threatening them in those games. So this one's spicy, man. It's going to be fun. The line's at 4 on FanDuel and some other big spots. Kind of thought it might be a little more towards 6.5 Ohio State. Are you guys surprised at the 4 number?
It started out 5.5. I feel like that was to try to entice those 6.5, 7 people. I thought for a week that this was going to be not as close as a lot of people think, but like we've talked all week, you guys have me convinced. And obviously we'll do predictions later. I think the 4.5 or 4, depending on where you're looking, is still a spicy take. And I think Indiana's numbers and how they have scored and performed all year contribute to that. But I have my own train of thought that I feel like they ran it up on a lot of people to fluff some numbers. So I don't know. I think it's about right given when you take everything that goes into a spread.
Yeah, I agree with Jeremy. I do think this is going to be a closer game, but I do think Coach Cignetti, as great as he is, man, I do think he does run it up a little bit to make the scores look a little bit better than they actually do. But I'm not going to judge a man. He wins wherever he goes. So to each their own.
Google him.
Yeah,
Google him.
Obviously, I don't want to say the entire Indiana success hinges on Fernando Mendoza, but face of the program. Obviously one of the top 2 Heisman contenders, no matter where you look. And the guy's good, transfers in, and he's done very well. 211 completions, 293 attempts, 32 touchdowns, 2,758 yards, 5 interceptions, another 338 yards on the ground, and another 6 touchdowns. This guy's legit, possible number 1 pick in the draft, and that's Jake's area. Obviously, the Browns are watching this guy tomorrow night against a real defense.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that at the college level makes a bunch of NFL throws, and that in and of itself is tough to defend, innately tough to defend. I think there are ways Slate and I'll talk about here that are like making that a little more difficult on him, the way I think some big-time programs they have faced this year did not. And I'll be very interested to see if Ohio State goes about that in a very specific way. But he can play, obviously extremely smart player, heavily involved in a lot of the stuff they do at the line of scrimmage. If you listen to him talk, understands the way defenses move for the most part, has a keen understanding of the front and the coverage tie-ins. He's talked about that. So he's a smart dude. And he's also willing to stare down the gun barrel and make throws when hits are about to happen. And that's a tough trait to find in guys. But he can be confused. He will make a mistake here and there. And I think that is where Ohio State's probably looking at this week, kind of like we talked about with Quinn Ewers last year when they played Texas. And it's like, we just have to find those ways that can really confuse him 4 or 5 snaps. And can we create a couple chaos plays or havoc plays off of those confusing snaps for him? So you got to be balanced. Their RPO stuff is deadly. They got to, and he can +1 in the run game. So you can't really, I would say it this way, and I'll throw it to you, Slade, because I do think this is true. Of the schedule Ohio State's played this year, this is the best rush attack that has a, very balanced quarterback and passing game off of it. And that's going to be the challenge here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mendoza, my favorite thing about him, and you said it, staring down the barrel and being able to make those throws and taking that shot. That is my favorite trait about him, man. He has taken some shots, especially against some of the better opponents, and he has still made some of those great throws. And that's one of my favorite things about him. The other sneaky thing about him too, and you talk about the RPO and the +1 in the run game, he is a capable runner. And I think in some of these big games that some of these teams have forgotten that. and he's been able to pick up those extra yards, those extra first downs, and extend the drive and gain a possession. And that's because he is a very heady guy. He knows, okay, if I can go get this first down, I'm going to extend this drive. It's going to take X amount of time off the clock, or this is a must get right now. And so I think those are things that people often overlook in those type of big games, but he knows that and understands that. And I think it's important that Ohio State makes sure that they are locked in on situational football. And obviously we'll get into that more when we talk about the game plan after we go through all the personnel stuff. But I think Mendoza I think he's the real deal, man. I don't think he is. Yeah, I think he's better than Curtis Rourke, what they had last year. I don't think he is. I don't think he is a bum by any means. I think he's the real deal. I think people forget that he has been a starter prior to coming to Indiana. This is not a one-year deal. He was a starter at Cal, so like he is a good football player. He's a tough dude, and he's got some studs around him, man. So I'm excited for this matchup for the defense and Coach Patricia and the secondary as well. They better come to play because he will take some shots, and he trusts those receivers in those one-on-one matchups. You've talked about it before. He's a great back shoulder thrower, and IGB and Jermaine, you better come ready to play because he is going to test you guys. I guarantee you, if they see Jermaine go down into the slot and Devin Sanchez has to come in at corner, they're going to take a shot at Devin. I know that's going to happen. They're going to see if the freshman can go do that. And so those are things that I expect to see from him, but I expect the Buckeyes to be ready. But Mendoza is he's the real deal, man. He is, in my opinion, the best quarterback we've seen this whole season, obviously.
Yeah. So, and along with that, you hit on the secondary needing to pack their lunch pails because outside of Ohio State, this is definitely the second best receiver group in the conference, if not the country. We've seen IGB start to get a little handsy again, and he's definitely going to be put to the task tomorrow night. And before we dive into their guys, question for you, Slate, because you hit on it. I wonder if we've started to see more Bryce West to prepare for this game. That you put Bryce West in the slot instead of moving Jermaine down, and you can keep Jermaine on the outside.
Yeah, and that could very well happen. There's no doubt. I think Lorenzo Styles doesn't get enough credit as well, for his coverage ability. I think he's one of the fastest guys on the team, one of the more physical guys on the team, one of the smartest guys on the team. Like, I really think he's a very capable player out there in coverage. But yeah, Bryce, we know what he can do. If they do go to some man coverage type things, I think he is a very comfortable guy that Coach Patricia feels good about putting in the game. But you could definitely see that. So you can keep Jermaine on the outside because you want to have those veteran guys out there. So yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Some different personnel packages because these receivers are the real deal.
Yeah, and it starts with Omar Cooper Jr., 58 catches, 804 yards, 11 touchdowns.
Yeah. They could go get it, man. There's no really other words to say. Like, I think that last drive against Penn State, I think some of the big catches they had in a tight game against Iowa, I mean, they can just go freaking get it. I mean, they are just really good receivers. They can win those one-on-ones, and Mendoza trusts them. And there's nothing better and nothing that makes a receiver. I mean, and Jake knows this as a former quarterback. If I'm playing receiver and my quarterback has the confidence in me to go win a 50-50 ball, like, I feel like I'm Superman. Like, if my quarterback feels that confident in me, like, hey, I trust you no matter who's out there. Like, I know I'm going to go win this matchup for my guy because he believes in me. And that's how the receivers play. When I watch a film, it doesn't matter who's out there, man. If they see man coverage, they think they're going to win every single rep. And that's not going to change just because it's the scarlet and gray on the other side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's something to those guys. When you have your three, whatever your personnel package is, but when you have your guys out there knowing no matter where they are in a concept that they could get the football,
yeah,
you got guys that play that way and know that, and that's like receiver nirvana, man. The guys who get in that offense and understand that, they thrive in it. You see them play at a different tempo, and I think some of that stuff is true. And I certainly, they're different players. Omar Cooper's a more explosive player. I think he's going to be a really fun NFL talent. Probably a day 2 guy, earlier day 2 than people are talking about right now. Surratt is more of a back shoulder catch point ball winner type. Not going to blow away the testing, but he is just really, really good in the tight telephone booth of coming up with the football, man. And he trusts him like crazy. So, yeah, I mean, the third receivers stuff, we can talk about. That's not as dangerous for them. They certainly want to get their 2 main guys fed, but it is, between them and the 2 backs that they feature, it's as challenging a skill group as they face this year. And they do just enough offensively to make just to test your rules, man, to make you uncomfortable a little bit. And that's why they're a tricky team to defend.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake hit on Sarah. Another 11 touchdown guy, 600 yards. I mean, it's really crazy when you look at the numbers between the 3 receivers. They have, we'll call it 2/3 of the completions from Mendoza. The third guy, EJ Williams, has another 5 touchdowns. But they use Hemby, Roman Hemby, their running back, a lot in the pass game. He's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, maybe, depending on how the Buckeye front 4 plays tomorrow night. He's got 905 going into the game with 6 touchdowns. Another dude who I think gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, I love their running backs, man. They are north and south, man. They are physical, violent runners. They are not afraid to run behind their pads. They are going to be ready for this game. They are going to feel like they are a forgotten piece of this offense because people talk about Mendoza, people talk about this passing attack. The one thing I noticed in the film, anytime it was a close game, they did go back to the running game. They did go back and rely on some of the things in their running game. And I think they've got running backs that do well in the zone scheme runs. And I really believe that these running backs are solid. The Buckeyes have to make sure they tackle at a high level. They've got to make sure that they are fitting their gaps. They've got to make sure that they are what did Coach Patricia say? It is have to stay square and fundamentally sound. These guys will make sure that you do that because they are fully capable of busting and taking a big play to the house. They will make you miss in a phone booth. Like they can do so many different things. And that's one thing I really like about these running backs, man. I think that they are just violent guys that are not afraid and going to run away from contact. And I think they trust them. And if it's not working in the passing game, they're going to turn around and hand the ball off and say, hey, we've got 2 or 3 guys that we really believe can really get this offense going.
One thing I'm anxious to ask you guys about, because you guys are our deep dive guys. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the drop-off in rush production for the Indiana offense is exponentially less against the better teams they've faced this year.
Yeah.
Would you like those numbers, Jeremy? Because I have them.
Absolutely.
There you go. Okay. I mean, first of all, they have run for over 300 yards 6 times this year. They just put 355 rushing yards on Purdue, 367 against Maryland, 312 against Illinois. They will run a lot. Now, Iowa held them to 104, 2.7 a carry. As we know, that game was low scoring. Oregon held them to 3 yards per carry, 111 in that game. And then Wisconsin, who I know you and I, Slate, really enjoy how they play defense there. The offense is another problem.
Yes.
But 83 yards in that one, only 2.2 a carry. So, yes, teams that are well coached defensively and have dudes in the tackle box do give them some trouble. Now, got to prove you can do it. I think Ohio State has the horses to do it.
Yep.
And Indiana can still beat you if Mendoza's dialing it up and is comfortable, even if they don't run it well. That's what makes them, in my opinion, a very dangerous college football team. They don't have to win in one way.
Yeah.
But you really need to take away that simplicity for them. If you can make them in a very single solo facet, I don't think, guys, my personal opinion, I like Surratt, I like Omar, but you can take away enough that the other contributors have to play a role. And I think that's where that offense can get really frustrated. I do. So you got to really make them very, very much a single dimension team. And that helps to get out in front, right? If you can get up early,
Yep.
all those little facets,
Absolutely.
of course. But they are going to be diligent in trying to figure out how to run it effectively. And I think you're just going to have to beat their butt at the point of attack. I think that's
Yep.
really going to be as simple as it gets, because you're gonna have to, as second level players, and so you can speak to this a little bit. But when you face teams who lean into RPO and long reads, you can't be fast second level players that often.
Nope.
And that's going to challenge the guys up front to really process schemes and get into gaps and play your run fit. I am interested in how much gapped out stuff Ohio State tries to play, how much single high they get into, and really, really play and put their corners on an island and say, hey, we're going to challenge our guys in a sense, right? You don't want to play. We're going to talk about that a little bit with the back shoulder stuff, but like, I'm just interested in that, how much they would rather be gapped out versus fit, more solid in the back portion of coverage to eliminate big plays.
Yeah, then that's one of the things that I am excited about too, to see, because the RPO stuff as a defensive coordinator, especially teams that run it really well, it just presents so many issues for you. It doesn't matter what you have. When you have an Arvell Reese, a Sonny Styles, the last thing that you want to do is slow them down. The last thing that you want to do is make them, and I'm not saying they can't think, because they're extremely smart guys. The last thing you want them to do, though, is to not play as fast as they normally do. And the second you do that, it is now an advantage for the offense. And so that is something that you have to make sure that is really coached up. And that's one thing that you have to figure out, like Jake was just saying, whether you're going to be gapped out, what are you going to do in the back end? It's all going to be dictated by what we do in the back end. And I think, and I'll talk about it here in a second, there's so many different things that I would do going into this game. I know Jeremy wants to talk about the offensive line really quick. But I think there are some things that we can do to really help out with some of the RPO stuff. And Jake hit something really good to talk about the simplicity. We've got to take that simplicity away from their offense. And I think there's some things that we can do defensively that are simple things for us that will take away their simplicity and force them to go to some complex stuff. And that's not where they're going to thrive.
Yeah, real quick, the offensive line, because this kind of ties together one of the things we always try to talk about, and that just brings the Ohio tie to it. Tackle Carter Smith kind of leads that group. This group is good. They're physical. I do think they have some depth concerns and that type of thing. But you have to have dogs. And Carter Smith's a dog. This is a guy that Ohio State wanted in the portal. He's a Columbus kid. It just never worked to get him there. So you guys have hit on a lot of the studs that they have, and you've started to kind of talk about how you kind of attack things. So with Mendoza, we'll kind of circle back to him because he's the driving force of the offense. How do you beat Mendoza?
So for me, this, and I'm thinking as if I'm the one that's game planning. I don't know what Coach Patricia is going to do. I can't sit here and say like, oh yeah, we're on the same level, because we're not. But what I would do if I'm game planning for Mendoza, I'm trying to figure out how I can muddy the picture for him in every way possible when it comes to the passing game. All right. And when I say muddy the picture, what can I show him pre-snap and change post-snap that's going to mess with his eyes, that's going to force him to throw something that he doesn't want to throw? Right. And we've got a bunch of clips, whether it's in the Purdue game, the Iowa game, the Penn State game. He made some mistakes and threw into some spots. He threw some interceptions that were uncharacteristic of him, because he was confused and he didn't know where he should go with the ball, because there was, I live by this mantra, move late, work fast. Right. When you're stemming and you're moving in the back end, you need to move as late as you can, but you better be hauling, to get to wherever you need to get to. Right. And that is going to mess with his eyes. And I think that is something that Ohio State, with our versatility, with guys like Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain and Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, what we've done and what we can do with these guys will benefit us when we want to muddy that picture in those passing situations. And if we can steal one or two and get the ball back to our offense and get some points on the board and force them to have to play from behind, again, that is advantage to us. And so coverage wise, I want to muddy that picture for Mendoza. And I think if we can do that on a consistent basis, I think that really is going to mess with him. And it's going to be, you know, a confidence boost for our defense and the secondary. And you know how we get when we get confident. Jermaine and IGB are going to be feeling themselves, and then it's going to be night for the rest of the game, because that's how they play, and they need that confidence to feel good and to be playing at a high level.
Yeah, I think any of these guys at this level, it's as much that can feel different snap pre to post, right? That's the thing that we're always like trying to evaluate as much as we possibly can, because that's what the NFL world is doing so often, right? The NFL world will still walk down guys and get them into your face and, you know, say, hey, we're just going to mug front you and bring 6 or 7 and you got to beat man coverage. That obviously happens. But the best in the NFL are teams that are giving you looks, giving you things that confuse you and putting you into post snap split second crisis is what I call it. If you can get any quarterback in split second crisis right once they take the football. And it doesn't happen to Mendoza a ton. Like, I think the Matt Ryan comp for him on the high end is a very fair comp. It doesn't happen to him a ton, but you can get him, and you can get him to feel like he's pressing and get in his own head a little bit. And then from there, you can make choices that I think are a bit more aggressive as a defense. Now, the secret, I think, to these guys as much as anything, and I think this is not football rocket science, but can they pressure them with 4? Because if you can drop 7 and muddy the stuff the way Ohio State can be unique with how they do that, right? They can really change pictures on you. But if it's like, hey, we can't get any pressure without bringing a 5th body, or sometimes a 6th body, you know, this is a DC slate that puts you into some very vulnerable spots. Your best games coached are games where your front 4 are eating people alive. And you know, Indiana's right side of the offensive line is a bit of a concern to me. I don't know how much you guys have looked into this as far as like their pressures allowed. The right side guys, Bray Lynch and Khalil Benson. Now, Benson missed most of last week. He's a Colorado transfer that played all year. He's been up and down. He's got the most pressures allowed for them, 21 on the year. They've only allowed 70 pressures across every position. So it's a very good pass block group, but they don't really play a bunch of drop back ball. They try to stay out of true drop back 3 and 5s as much as they possibly can, because they run it so well. They just don't even get us a ton of opportunity there. Right. But the right side of this O-line, and you know the name that has stepped in for him, right? Mikulski's the one who's stepping in for him. Last week. And it was uneven, as we know. So it's a matter of if they can take, like, if Ohio State wins, this is so stupid to say because it's always true, but I really do think if they can win both the initial run fit phase and obviously win with 4 pressure on him, make his life chaotic. And I'm talking also pressure up the middle, because he's a middle ball thrower. He likes to feel comfortable throwing between the hashes. Now, don't get me wrong. He gets a cover 2 perception. He will try to hit some hole shots and some different throws that might leave Ohio State DBs like, okay, haven't seen that all year. There's a ball, I think, in the Iowa game up the right sideline. He's throwing this sucker from inside his 10-yard line, left hash, outside the right hash. Unbelievable throw. He can do that, but that's the throws I want him to make. I want to make him make those. If he beats us doing that, and that kid's trotting across the stage as the first pick in the draft, we're probably sitting here in, like, you know, May, and like, okay, they got beat by Indiana, but that makes sense. I mean, this guy was an insanely good game. He will have to play. Like, let me put it this way. I would be okay if the first overall pick in the draft beats me. That guy's good. He made the plays, but what I don't want to do, Slate and Jeremy, I don't want to make it so he doesn't have to think about it. I don't want him making 5 to 7 back shoulder throws where there's 3 flags thrown, because I think that's one of the worst officiated things in any level is back shoulder throws and guys throwing their hands up in the air. So I want to make him make big boy NFL throws. If I can make him make those, and he makes them, and they beat you, all right. That still was the right plan. The process was clean. I don't want them to run for 200 yards. He throws for 165, and they end up beating you because you allow them to let that phase dominate and dictate. Take that away, make him make NFL throws, pressure with your front 4, and that's how you beat almost any quarterback, man, especially the really good ones. If you're taking a body out of coverage and you're sending him forward, Oh, baby. They love that.
Yeah.
The guys who are comfortable, they love that because they'll just throw and they'll replace him, right? Or they'll know where the rotation is, replacing the blitzer, and they'll find that spot. He's a smart dude. So change the picture, give you some sim pressures, drop out of the sim pressures, bring a guy from depth on occasion, or give him man coverage, send somebody from depth like Sonny, and then have him stop at the line of scrimmage and encourage that scramble, and then make him make a move, and you dictate from there. Like, I want him thinking, they're playing man, I can run. Oh, I can't run. There's somebody spying me that I didn't expect, right? If they're playing zone, I want to move it from single to too high. I want to drop and give him different variations. So that's just my opinion on that side of the ball. You have to make him beat you, which sounds crazy, but that's the answer here. They haven't. I mean, the Penn State game is a great example of this. They couldn't run it, and it took Mendoza until the final minutes of that game to get it done. He did, but as a Penn State fan, that was a big boy drive. He made a couple big throws, right? And we're going to talk about that game, but that's something you can stomach in a way versus, hey, man, they ran for 225. Like, really? We gave up, and it dictated a bunch of. Mendoza was only like 13 of 20 for 185 passing yards and 3 touchdowns because the run game gives them answer. That's what I don't want. That's just me personally sitting back viewing it from a very zoomed out perspective.
But again, in that game, what did Penn State do? Jim Knowles brought 5 and 6 guys, and they played cover 1 the majority of the game. And they played
drive.
They played cover 1 the majority of the game, and that is where Mendoza is going to be comfortable because he's just going to let his guys go win that one-on-one matchup. Now, they're not always going to win that one-on-one, but if he's got time and he can scramble outside of the pocket, or if he can step up into the pocket, he's going to be able to get his guy, right? If you muddy that picture, though, I don't know if he's going to consistently be able to do that. You talked about the sim pressures and dropping a spy and having them stop at the line of scrimmage. The perfect example of that is if you fast forward or rewind, all the way back to the Texas game. That is something that Ohio State did such a good job of with Arch Manning. Obviously, that is the game that everybody was like, who's number 8? Who's this Arvell Reese character? And they did such a phenomenal job with Arvell showing these pressures, dropping him off and being that spy. They did the same thing with Sonny, and it was messing. Now, I know Arch, is a very young quarterback, but it was messing with Arch. And I think Ohio State can get back to some of those things. And I think it can mess with Mendoza, maybe not at the same level that it messed with Arch, but I do think it can affect him in those ways. And I don't think he's running away from Arvell and Sonny and Caleb Downs.
No, he's not. And it just takes 2 quarters of messing with him that a game can be decided, right? Like, it doesn't take 4. He'll figure some things out. I have no doubt Fernando will make some throws. He'll complete some balls. They'll have some plays, right? I know Ohio State's held everybody 17 or fewer. They'll probably get to that. They're going to push past that. But the question is, how much can they make them? How often can they make them punt? Can they get a few turnovers? And how difficult is it for Indiana to get to 21 and beyond? That's got to be the biggest thing. And I think that's wholeheartedly true, man. It's very tempting to be like, hubris steps in, our corners are better than their receivers, and we believe in them. So I'm going to put them in their face and make life hell on those receivers. I'm telling you can't do it. I think that's just, and that's a credit to those dudes. I think they're good enough. I think the quarterback is good enough at trusting them to make. Now, you got to mix in man. You can't live in his own world all game. No one's asking for that. But I'm saying you can't have, in my opinion, could always be wrong here, and it's always things that dictate how throws and outcomes perform. But like, I don't want to look at the tape Sunday and be like, there was a 55% man game. Like, that's just not a smart approach. And I don't think they will. And I just don't think it serves them well to do that because they have smart enough guys. I can't speak to Penn State slate. Maybe you can a little bit. Maybe some of the Penn State stuff is like, we can't do the stuff I want to do in zone. So let's just let them think less. We'll get up in their face, try to get aggressive and do some of that. Ohio State has a bunch of dudes who have understood all year this stuff, and the weapons at Patricia's disposal here to make things hard on him are pretty plentiful. So I don't have a concern about that. I really just, can they fit the run and keep the run game in check? They run for 88 yards. it's hard to move the football in this defense. There's too many dudes in the back half. And if you're dropping 7, good luck. I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
So before we hop into the how you attack the Indiana defense and some of their dudes, I have 2 questions for you guys. You've talked about, muddy the picture. Is this the game that you see a D-end interception or a big play from a D-end in the pass game who drops into coverage because he's muddying the picture? And do you truly blitz Mendoza? Slate and I have talked all season long about the different types of pressure Matt Patricia has used with the front 4. Or do you go with like the Damon Williams plan of contain the pocket, force him where you want him to go?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting approach. If Coach Patricia wanted to go with the Damon Williams, I could get behind that and understand the reasoning behind doing that. I really could. I do think he does struggle with some pressure in his face. It just depends on what you want to do behind that. And that's the thing. Like, I don't know what Coach Patricia will want to do behind the pressure when he decides to bring it. And so I'm back and forth on how I feel about that. If it were me, I'm not going to be a cage the pocket guy with him. I'm going to be more of a dropping off a spy here and there. I'm going to, pull up the quarterback, play some umbrella technique, and I'm going to let my freak athletes go chase him down, right? I want him to feel that pressure of Arvell Reese or Sonny chasing him down, right? Because he's not had that. He's not had that spy that's going to make him feel uncomfortable. Right, that Jake was talking about. And so that's the method that I'm going to go. If he's not the same athlete that Damon Williams is. And so that's one of the things that I would not necessarily want to go with that approach. And so I do think we'll see some defensive ends drop into coverage. We saw it in the Penn State game. We saw it in the Iowa game against Indiana as well. And it took Mendoza off his first read, and it forced him to throw hot and look at some other things that he did not want to go. Not throw hot, but look at some other things off of his hot read that he did not like, and it forced him into some bad throws. And it was a win for the defense. And so those are some things I do think we will see. I do think there will be times where we'll be in a mug front, and you're going to see Arvell Reese end up dropping under a backside one from being in a mug in the A gap, like some freak of nature stuff. Like, you're going to see those things because we've got guys that can go do that. And so I think this is a week that you're going to see some guys that are lined up on the defensive line that do drop in coverage. And now when we bring 4, it's not going to be just 4 defensive linemen every single time. The 4th guy is going to be an Arvell, is going to be an Arvell Reese one play. It is going to be a Sonny Styles one play, or the next play, it might be a corner, and it's going to be a variety of different people that are going to be that 4th rusher. And so
I'm interested how much penny they play, Slade, how many 5 down they play,
dude.
And then put Sonny and put Arvell on the side, on the edges, let those guys threaten as pass rushers, but then get real funky and creative and dropping them and having them do some different stuff.
Dude, I've been enamored with how
penny
much.
Real quick to people that might not know what that means.
Yeah, so penny front. So the penny is it's a 5-1, right? So it's the old school bear look. You got a 0-2-3 techniques, and then you've got 2 outside backers that are walked up. And so when we go penny front, it's typically Caden Curry and Arvell Reese, so that are the guys that are out on the edge, and then you have Caden McDonald over the nose. You have Kenyatta Jackson down on the inside, and either Tywon Malone or Edric Houston as the other 3 technique. And then sometimes it's Sonny Styles, who's that Mike linebacker. And then you've got Caleb Downs or Jalen McClain, who's the other safety, who's kind of walked down, who is technically playing that other linebacker spot. They're playing some sort of cover 3 behind it. Then you also see them get into like some true double eagle stuff too, man. And that's like, they do some fantastic things, and that gets me pumped up because, that's the penny front is what we ran a ton this past year. And it's a hard thing to do, man. It puts you in some one-on-one situations up front. And I think out of the penny front, if we can get some simple movements, up front with the penny look as well. Dude, watch out when it comes to the zone scheme stuff, man, because I think it's going to give Indiana some fits. I just really think simple movements. I watched Penn State do it a little bit. It can really affect them. I think, like you were talking about the right side of their line, the kid that transferred from Colorado, if he plays this game, and then obviously Zen Mahalski, they're going to struggle with those simple movements. They're big guys. I think if we get some simple movements and some penetration out of that penny look, or crap, I almost cuss, out of any look, it's going to be, I get amped up, sorry. It's just going to be a problem for some of those zone schemes. And with the way Kenyatta Jackson is playing right now, listen, the more we can get him moving and creating some penetration, I'm a fan of that. So that's a penny front. You know, I'm sorry I went on a tangent there, but
that's what we want,
just
baby.
Gets me jacked up. I'm like sweating right now.
I love 5-down stuff against RPO teams. I love making that stuff more challenging. And I think not everybody can play it because they don't have the athletes in the back half that can give you those risk reward opportunities, right? That's the obvious thing here is you put 5 down, you're giving yourself probably a little bit less on the back half, but ultimately you just want to make the run game a nightmare. Now they don't run it the way Michigan does. Michigan gets super heavy. They'll throw in 3 tight ends, they'll throw in a fullback, they'll get big long counters where they're taking the guard and pulling them wide and kicking a corner. They don't do that, but they have their own way of stressing gaps in a similar way, just a totally different look. So I am curious if they put 5 down, and I'm sure that's something that you as fans can be watching and sitting there being like, oh, okay, I see that they're putting 5 on the line of scrimmage, and especially with Arvell and how creative you can get in some of his zone drops out of that, or some of his split second I'm dropping and then rush off that edge. Once you dictate that the protection is going to be a certain way, you're talking about Benson. All right, well, he's dropping. I'm going to take that step inside now, sell that drop and then, rush off the edge. There's just different things you can do, especially with the set of trump cards that this defense has in some of these guys that I get fascinated how they're going to try to take away the first level and then see how they're playing on the second level. And I think we'll know early. How they feel about what their opinion is about Indiana's run game and how serious they are about, hey, man, they're clearly playing penny. They want to take it away, and they think they need some bodies to do it. Or they're playing 4, they're taking it away. They don't respect it like that. They would rather keep themselves a little more secure in the back half, right? So that's a subplot I think fans can pay attention to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the other thing they like to do, and I've noticed this with Coach Patricia, he finds ways to get into 5-man looks so often, like not necessarily your traditional penny front. Obviously it could be, instead of 2-3 techniques, it could be 2-4 eyes. It could look like an over front or an under front of some sort, but you're getting into 5 down. And it's like, it's so impressive the way that he does it without making it a difficult thing for the defense to get in and out of. And so in the spring, when we were down at practice, watching him go through that, I knew this was going to be a major part of what they were doing. I just didn't know we were going to run it as much as we do, man. So it's pretty cool to see it. And then you turn on the games on Sunday and you see it all the time. And it's just like, it's really cool to see.
Slate loves some double eagle. Don't ever forget that.
Dude, love it, man. Love it.
That's an old pleasant high school staple, brother.
Absolutely.
I'm stoked to see, to get through the film breakdown after this game, no matter win or lose, because it really is going to be a chess match, and it's going to be exciting stuff to watch because we think it's going to be a banger. We've already said that. I think, let's pivot to a couple of their dudes on defense because they got dudes at every level. Stephen Daly, Kent State transfer, 18 tackles for loss, leads, the conference. To me, my favorite non-Buckeye linebacker, Aiden Fisher, came over with SIG from James Madison. This dude is just a hard-nosed grinder. I don't know of any other word to describe him. And then on the back end, former same school as Jeremiah Smith, D'Angelo Pons, also a good return man. All 3 of those dudes, first team All Big Ten. What do you see when you look at this defense? I know Slate is a huge fan of their DC and what he does, what he brings to the table. Does the Buckeye offense need to pack a lunch?
So you talk about what you like about him, what you then I'll throw some coverage numbers and blitz numbers and stuff I've got on him.
Yeah, I like his personality, man. He's an Ohio guy. His brother was the head coach at Urbana University, so you see, I got my Urbana playbook back there. He's a really good young coach. I think he's got that swagger that Signetti wants. And that's just one of the things that when, he was recruiting some of our players, one of my guys from Findlay is on the team, Baylor Wilkin, offensive lineman. He plays for Indiana. When he was coming and recruiting some of these guys, it was just one of those things that I really enjoyed about him. And then just the way that the guys play for him. Like, that's the one thing I love about him the most. Like, we could talk about X's and O's all day, but do the players respect you? And do they play hard for you? And these dudes play hard for him. And that is one of the things that I just respect about him the most. And so, we can talk X's and O's, but that's one thing I just respect about him the most. And obviously, being from the state of Ohio, I always root for those guys.
That's right.
So
man.
real quick before Jake gets into numbers, I was actually wrong. Stephen Daly was not the all Big Ten lineman. That was their D tackle, Tyree Tucker, another dude who they use in a lot of, just straight up the middle ways.
Yeah, so defensively, there's from a front perspective. I mean, they'll get into some penny stuff here and there, and they'll do some different things. But they like to live in 4-3, 4-2-5 type stuff. I mean, depends on how they label their slot guy and who they want to put in there more often than not. But it's a traditional look. They, by the numbers coverage wise, it's a cover 3 team. That's the most they play. I think 48% of their snaps this year have been in cover 3, close coverage. Sometimes they rotate. They can be an aggressive rotation team, and that's not crazy, right? It's not hard to be a safety to whatever side you want to bring a rotation down and have him kind of play down in the low hook. So it's not crazy at all. But they like to start in cover 2 and they like to roll out of it. Looks they have upticked a little bit in cover 6. If you don't know what that is, I think the simplest way to describe it is it's a hybrid cover 2, cover 4. It's usually a down. Usually, some teams play this differently, but you usually like to take away. It's a good coverage for ball-winning wide receivers. You want to have a down corner to the boundary, take away the X. Usually the weak side formation wide receiver who you like to isolate. So you get a little cover 2 to that side. You put a safety over top. Jeremiah will see it, right? He's pretty good, I think. So they'll put a safety over top, let a corner be aggressive, playing low and underneath him, underneath shade, and doing some of that. And then you play quarters to the backside, cover 4. So, the origins of calling it cover 6 is it's cover 4 plus cover 2, and you get cover 6. So they'll do some of that. They've upticked in that world, but they don't mind playing cover 2. They're not a huge quarters team. 13% of quarters this year, as opposed to 48% of cover 3. Cover 2 is a 20% usage for them. And then cover 6, like I said, not crazy this year, only 7.9%. But having said that, if you sort them by weeks, they played 15 snaps of cover 6 against Penn State week 11, and then 16 snaps of it against Purdue, which is by far the most. And those are 2 of the last 3 games, so that's probably going to be a feature part of what they do. Like against Purdue, they only played 9 snaps of 2, but played 16 snaps of cover 6. So there you go. They are not a big man team. So do not expect much man coverage in this game. They don't like to leave those guys on islands against receivers. I think their man percentage is one of the lowest in college football. I think 116th. So there you go. That's not what they're going to be. It's a by the book. Sometimes you turn on, it looks by the book, man. 4-3 with the 4-2-5 set up out of it with that safety or nickel, depending on, like I said, how they want to match personnel, how they want to play things. I am curious how they defend some of the 2 tight ends pistol stuff Ohio State's been throwing out lately, how they want to fit that. Do they want to bring a base linebacker on the field? Do they want to bring a 5th D lineman onto the field? I would imagine that they're telling themselves some similar things to what we just said, which is Ohio State has not been very good running the football all year. And then all of a sudden they have a blow up performance against Michigan. How do we make sure that doesn't happen? Because Sand can still, and these wide receivers and tight ends have all caught fire. We've seen it. They can beat you without it. But Ohio State was like, I guarantee the coaches were sitting in that office, or the flight back, whatever. It's like, look at these run numbers. How easy was that? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can get that moving, that certainly helps. So, Yeah, not a big man. So expect a lot of zone, a lot of drops. They don't even like to blitz that much, guys. They're 107th in blitz rate this year, 20% late down blitz team, as most teams are. So they trust their guys. They keep it simple, and they play fast. And they got some good dudes who can play with some aggression. But I don't think this is a team, in my opinion, that you should be chasing big plays on. This feels very methodical offensively to me. I think you can try to hunt some plays. You can hunt cover 2 beaters down the middle of the field to Carnell. We saw there against Michigan. You can hunt some of them, but I would not be surprised to see this not be a big explosive rate game for big plays. I think it's just a team you got to continue to put yourself ahead of the sticks, give them a bunch of high-low conflicts, and take advantage of those opportunities. I am curious how much they want to play 6 and too high. It's like, how often do you want to be in that world? Certainly their corners are not going to match up. I mean, God, guys, how many corners do, right? Match up well with 17 and 4, but like that does leave you vulnerable. It does leave you vulnerable. So it's how much do they trust their group up front to be able to handle sitting in too high stuff and giving the quarterback only some very specific options. And how patient can Julian be, right? That's going to be the question. How patient can he be? I was really encouraged by some of the stuff where he felt comfortable stepping up, reading out different concepts, whether it was a flood or whether it was some sort of downfit, and giving it to the back and letting him create. So that's my hunch. And I do think this is going to be a game they try to screen you up a little bit. They're going to try to put the ball, because of off coverage, let's get the ball in the perimeter in the wide receiver's hands. Let's try to block it up outside and give our guys some opportunities to run with some blocking in front of them. So that's just like some early hunches I have. I did not consume as much as I wanted to, but that's where I kind of feel there's some vulnerability to this thing. But again, like on the other side of the ball, Ohio State runs it the way they did against Michigan. It's going to be really hard for Indiana to defend every inch of the field horizontally. And then you're going to be able to stretch that zone coverage the way you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. As a DC, if I'm preparing for Ohio State, I'm thinking in the sense of once they get into the red zone, like I want them to be methodical, but once they get into the red zone, I'm going to tighten up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to make sure that they have to earn everything down there, obviously, because I just don't know if we're going to get away from, like, are we going to be creative consistently down in the red zone? You know what I mean? Like, are we going to go to whatever we went to and line up in trips and run that follow like we ran with Brandon Ennis on an earlier down? Or are we going to come out in, multiple tight end sets on a consistent basis when it's not necessarily working, right? I want to see if we are comfortable. I want to see if Ohio State's comfortable doing that if I'm a DC, right? And I think Coach Haynes is that type of coach. I think he's going to say, like, okay, like, I think we can shut them down and hold them to field goals in the red zone. And I fully believe that he is confident in that. And so that will be an interesting matchup to see what they go to in the red zone. Cover 2 is one of my favorite coverages to run in the red zone. And so that's something that, I could see happening down there. But once you get down in there inside the 10, what is Ohio State going to do? Are they going to have a package for Lincoln? Are we actually going to see that? What are we going to do when we get down in there? Because that's got to be something it shouldn't be 4th and 1, and we've got to, it's make or break, right? Like I'd rather us throw it up to Jeremiah 4 times in a row. Like, what are we going to do when we get down there? So that's one thing I'm excited to see. And I'm just really curious to see how we are going to handle being in that red zone tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You saw a little bit of creativity finally last week with the Caden McDonald at fullback play. But yeah, we never saw a Keenholz package at all last week. You guys talk about like how the Indiana defense gives you the underneath, but Julian has to be patient, which he's been very, very good at this year. And we kind of saw a lot of that, like Jake said, in the Michigan game. There were times that he stepped up and then he ended up taking something low. Is this going to be a Bo Jackson, Brandon Ennis, Max Clare type game?
It certainly could. I think you can get the football into their hands, like a lot of, sort of snag concept slate where you're, again, stressing curl flat defenders. And they were really good against Michigan with that, man, challenging that backside of 6 where they knew they were going to haul underneath anything to the flat. So they were just running little in breakers and snagging it up there at the sticks. They hit those several different times. So I think that'll be a part of it. I think it's a comeback kind of game. Comeback routes will be a part of this. They should be putting more of those into application, especially against 2 flooding. I think flood routes, concepts, intermediate, high, low will be a part of the game plan off of some play action, because again, when you play zone teams, you got to overload certain portions of the field to stress those guys. So I think you're going to see some traditional stuff here. I don't think you need to be crazy here to beat Indiana's defense. I think you need to be very fundamentally sound. I think you need to block well at the point of attack. We obviously know what they did last week was like an Airbnb for Julian. If they can do that again, and this is, I think, Michigan's not bad up front, guys. It's not a bad team. If they play with that level of protection here, because when Indiana has found some success, they got 19 pressures on them against Oregon, and put Dante Moore into some tough spots, man. And they got 20 pressures on them, Penn State. Like those games where they've played some premier teams, they've gotten a lot of pressures. They got a kid, that edge rusher, whose name is escaping me, that he's got a very high volume of pressure, man, and they get some pressure along the interior. So if Ohio State can keep him clean, they can keep Julian from feeling pressure on straight drops. Julian has proven, even when coverage gets funky, he can find solutions. Yep. So that part of the game, again, Julian's in the forefront of a Heisman race, and I could not have been more impressed with how well he mentally worked through what Michigan gave him, to the point I was kind of laughing, just why, like, he felt so comfortable. Like he felt so comfortable. So I think that if you give him time again, and if this is the offensive line they're going to have playing this way the rest of the way, I don't like to do that arrogant sounding stuff, but it's like really good luck, because he can find solutions. And then at the end of the day, man, I don't mind giving 17-4 a chance in one-on-ones. Like, let's do it. Just give them those opportunities. So I think it's about taking care of the football, having some run game efficiency in this one, and then being selective about how you push the football down the field, the right spots at the right time. And, those guys sitting in there will know exactly coverage breakdowns of, hey, man, if we're in the high red zone, here's the coverage we're going to get. If we're in the plus 50, this is the coverage they like to run. We got a beater for it on third downs. That's what people don't understand, man. Those shot throws are purposeful. They're usually very purposeful. Yeah. You got a list on your play sheet of shot plays based on coverages. You got breakdowns everywhere. Hey, man, in the middle of the field, neutral, second downs, they love to play quarters, right? Just those little nuggets that they have. So I am interested in it. I think if I was Indiana, I'm not letting the wide receivers beat me. I would do my best to ensure that in every snap. Like, you think Michigan's not sitting there like, how on earth do we lose track of Carnell in 2? That can never happen. It can never happen. It's got to be a rule. He's in the slot. You got to know he's there. The sluggo, we cannot leave anybody on an island. I don't care if they get the first down on 4th and 5 by running it. It's not going to kill us. What will kill us is if they run a sluggo that gets dropped in our head, right? So I do think they will play with as much help on those guys as possible. Now, given that fact, how well will Ohio State exploit those weaknesses that come with that choice?
Yep.
That's what I think this game comes down to, in my opinion, on offense, guys.
I've said it till we're red in the face all year, but like you talked about, if Julian has time, I really, really like the Ohio State odds. I think, we obviously trust the left side of the line. Carson Hinsman hasn't given us any reason to not trust him. Phillip Daniels is a dog. I think a lot of that is going to boil down to Tegra Shabola and or Josh Padilla / Gabe Van Sickle. But I'm with you. If Julian's comfortable, I think it's blouses. I don't think Indiana can stop the Ohio State offense if it's firing on all cylinders. And it doesn't even have to be like Death Star mode. It just has to be take what's there, like you guys said, and run with it. Be patient. Have 8-minute drives. You don't have to go 4 minutes all the time. It's just a matter of playing good fundamental football.
Couldn't agree more, man. I think Ohio State's got to be very patient. They're going to Indiana's going to test the ability to stay out of hunt. And can you make, if this was me philosophically, big thing on the whiteboard I'm writing on Indiana's defense, I'm not really getting granular with it, more just thought process. Can we make it so that we can dissuade them from getting the ball to 17-4 so often that it disrupts the continuity of the group? They start to get frustrated. They're not getting touched. The third quarter, and Jeremiah's got 3 targets and a catch for 12 yards. That's the space they want to live in. And I would be comfortable on the same token as we're talking about taking on Indiana, how I want to make Mendoza beat me because of these external factors.
Yeah.
I want to make Ohio State beat me by running it, consistently showing they can beat us by running it. And then how much do you want to get Brandon Ennis involved, and how much do you want to get Max Clare involved? And I think Ohio State's shown a willingness to get those dudes involved, which is encouraging. I think they know, my opinion on this is that they know and are operating off of what they know. You saw the seam ball, tight end seam ball last week. You saw a lot of, again, getting the back into the route concept because teams just like, I'm a curl flat defender and 17's running. I'm going to go ahead and carry him as far as I can carry him. Well, who the hell's there to defend the flat? Like that stuff is how you have to build out continual drive after drive. And then you find your calculated shots to the big boys, right? That's what you do. So it seems to me like Ohio State is leaning into that. As long as Hartline doesn't have his heart too far in the South, I think they'll be fine getting some points on the board. But I mean, it's just like, again, a matter of can they play mistake-free ball? The thing you can't do here, Ohio State's better. I firmly believe that. It's just a matter of taking care of the ball and doing your job. And I feel like the offense have grown into who I think they need to be the rest of the way. And the defense is just it's kind of, I wish I was more defensive minded because I cover the Browns extensively and they're all defense, everything. Yeah. And I'm like, this is the same thing. Like they have their versions of Denzel and Miles and Schlesinger that the Browns have. Like they got those dudes and they unleash them in ways that makes it fun. So as far as sit back intrigue, I can't wait to watch it. Unless Ohio State runs into Oregon, because I'm a big Dante Moore believer, I couldn't be more interested in every ounce of breaking down this tape because it's got so many elements of what I'm paying attention to for this and for Ohio State. Right. So it's fun, man.
Yep.
Yeah. So Jake hit on kind of I guess we'll pivot to the wild card portion of the week. This has been an insane 48 to 72 hours for the program. Luckily, I don't think Ryan Day is the type to let outside noise and distractions affect everything, especially game prep. Obviously Brian Hartline to USF, but we saw it today. Brian Hartline is still 100% immersed into Ohio State football. The whole Chris Henry Jr., I don't even want to call it a debacle because after you listen to the kid talk, you cannot blame him for what he did. He took his time. He took a step back. He didn't rush into an emotional decision. He sat down. He thought it out. And, he even made the comment today. It wasn't about money. Do I think Ohio State gave him more money? Absolutely. Do I think that everybody else was offering more money? Yes. So I don't think Ohio State gets distracted, but Slate, you've ran programs. Obviously, you have been a coordinator. Jake's got coaching experience. Do you think outside noise matters?
I think it matters. I also think this is a different situation. I think that Brian Hartline or Coach Hartline, he loves being a Buckeye, and he's been so loyal to this place, and he wouldn't have anything, the things that he has right now, the career that he had in the NFL, the coaching career that he has, the life that he has right now, he wouldn't have that if it weren't for Ohio State. And so I don't think the outside noise will affect him. I think he's just going to be a very sleepy person. I think he's going to be extremely tired because he is going to be he's going to be running the offense. And now he's also thinking about running a program. And so he's going to be a very tired individual. I think Ryan Day is going to be extremely involved in what the offense is doing. And so he is going to be the type of person that will not let this affect play calling in any way. And I feel like if he feels that's going to happen, then he will be the person that's calling the plays. And we know that he can do that at a very high clip. And so I don't think the outside noise will necessarily affect them. The one thing I will say about this receiving core, if they know they're not playing for Coach Hartline anymore, they're going to want to send him out in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
That's their guy.
Yep.
That is their guy. And so if they know, like, hey, I'm not ever going to play for Coach Hart again, they're going to want to make sure that Coach Hart leaves this place feeling like he's on the top of the world and we did everything we could to send him out the right way. And I firmly believe that. And so I think these receivers are going to even galvanize, more around him to make sure that they are picking up the slack. I really think that. And that's kudos to Coach Hartline for building, that culture and really building those relationships in that room. And so I don't think it will necessarily be an issue, but it is definitely a lot to deal with.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that, but I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I would think that Ryan is probably also very tired, right? The signing day stuff that they got in the middle of these weeks with this stuff, like football's got to change this. They got to get back to the February signing days. It's you could tell when Ryan took the call, he was kind of bracing for impact a little bit on that call. So it's a relief. All that stuff's a relief. Chris will be good. They're excited about that. But to your point about the noise, I would be more concerned about this, guys, if Ryan wasn't the offense's construction. He's the engine of it. Understanding wholeheartedly, he's got to do more than just focus on offense. If he was a defensive guy and his OC left and then, was trying to do the door, I'd be a little more concerned. I think Ryan would be very focused on it. He's also very intelligent to know what, obviously, every single part of what Hartline has to deal with. If they didn't think that they could both do this, they certainly would have been. I'm sure Ryan would have been okay with man-to-man. Hart, man, go do it. Go do what you got to do, man. But they think they can do it. They got a good group collectively in that offensive room. And this is not a defense. It's you got to play well. I'm not taking anything away from Indiana. They got dudes. They can play. Yeah. But I think from a schematic standpoint, I don't think you have to go crazy here. I don't think it's going to be too awful tedious to come up with some things you think are going to work and then sprinkle in some fun, misdirections and things like that. We saw that little inside handback against Michigan. They'll do some of that stuff. So I trust on the offense, be a little different if Patricia got a DC job at the NFL level or something hanging there. You know what I mean? That's a little different. I think that he'll have these guys on that side of the ball ready to go. And he's also just got a bunch of guys who have played a bunch of snaps who now Julian's not a kid anymore, man. He's a dude. Yep. He's a player. Like, these guys are going to be comfortable, but it's buckle the chin strap and do your job. I mean, I think it comes down to that. If they do their jobs, they're better than Indiana. They should win this football game. And I think that's the message.
All right. Well, I think that was a perfect leadway. I think let's hit some predictions. Like I said, 2 weeks ago when I thought we were, obviously train tracking toward this game, I was convinced, Ohio State's exponentially better. I do think Ohio State's better. You guys seem to agree with that. The fast track, I think, is going to help. I think Ohio State is just on a different level right now to handle everything they're dealing with. I think Julian Sayin wins the Heisman Trophy, and I think the Buckeyes put up 35, and I think Indiana, I do think they cross that 17-point threshold. I think they get to 24 or 27.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how I just don't know if they can score that much on this defense, but I could be wrong. I do think Indiana is very good and very capable of winning this game. I really do. I think they're a very good and well-coached team. But I do think the Buckeyes come out on top. I've got like 8 different predictions down right now, but I'm gonna go 28-17. Ohio State finds a way to get it done. I think the Buckeyes are up 28-10 late in the fourth, and then Indiana scores one to make it 17. So it looks a little closer than what it was, but I think that's going to be the final 28-17.
That's a good one. I think Indiana is going to challenge Ohio State's defense in ways they haven't been challenged. And I'm going to be honest, because of the quarterback, like there's some other schools and programs and situations that like they just don't carry the level of quarterback play here, guys. So like maybe you run into Dante Moore in Oregon who's playing better ball and he looks the part for the NFL world and some of those things. But I do think Indiana is going to put it on some points on the board. And I think it's an Ohio State 27-24 walk-off win. That type of tight late game where it's some back and forth. But I also am like reminding, like Indiana will make playoff, and I think Indiana's going to play a lot of teams really well. They might win some games here in the playoff. Like I believe in that team. I think they can do it, man. I understand the strength of schedule and some of those things, but I think they can, because of the structure they've built quickly and the quarterback that they have is a level of balance. I mean, I don't fear Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. There's a lot of these teams who it's like, I just don't really fear their passing game, and Indiana has the ability to throw it. Have they had to throw it a ton? No, but they can. So I think it can be, it's going to be a kind of like you're watching this. This is really an annoying game. And I think it comes down to winning it late. So I will say 27-24 Ohio State and a kick inside, 2 minutes that gives them the win.
Okay.
All right. Kind of all ends of the spectrum. I like it. So yeah, obviously shout out to you guys. What an awesome initial episode for Buckeye Film Breakdown. Obviously after this game, you will see us pop on. We will do a breakdown of the game, and by that point we should know who the Buckeyes are playing in the college. Well, we'll know the winner, the bracket, because it'll be the winner of a game. But I think that kind of ties everything up for the Indiana preview, and with that we will see you guys next time.